Imagine always being asked the same question, and always disappointing people with your response. What's up, meta nerds? This video will cover the Pantoran species, the people often confused for the much more mysterious and more powerful Chiss. They are classified as a sentient near-human species, an in-universe designation that means that they have a sense of self, can use tools, and have language, while also being in a roughly humanoid shape. Hailing from Pantora, their homeworld is actually a moon. Located in Sector P19 of the galactic map, you can find it in the Outer Rim territories. The planet they rotated around was Ordo Plutonia, a desolate ice world home only to the Tals and some non-sentient creatures.
And this is the planet's tropical zone!
Pantora itself was covered in marshlands, and by the time of the Clone Wars, the global population was around 1 billion. All Pantorans had this similar shade of blue, and as they explored out from their homeworld, other species often confused them with the Runian and Chiss species. The easiest way to tell them apart is the eyes, with almost all of them having yellow eyes and very few of them having black, while their hair could range from black, blue, white, and even purple. At an average height of 1.5 to 1.9 meters, or 4 foot 11 inches to 6 foot 3 inches, it's about an equal range to that of humans, and about twice the height of a Jawa. Similarly, they have 2 sexes and reproduce like most mammals. The only real biological difference other than their appearance is the fact that they can endure much colder temperatures than your average human, something we see on display with the difference in wardrobes seen here. Over countless millennia, their society was shaped by the slave and spice empires that surrounded them, as crime has always been big in the Outer Rim. With these scoundrels for neighbors, they developed a strong military tradition and were ruled by powerful families. These early days are described as a feudal society, with a hierarchy of lords ruling the land, each doing the balancing act of keeping the peasant Pantorans in line, while also trying to keep Pantora independent from the constant raids from slavers and spicers looking for a remote place to set up operation. Nobles would decorate their cheeks and forehead with these yellow markings that showed their family lineage, a sort of coat of arms right on your face. But over time, lower members of society picked up on this tradition as well, showing off their family and region. The only religion that outsiders are aware of is that of a moon goddess, most likely worshipped for millennia, and something that they kept up even as they became part of the larger galactic community. Relics and jewelry were also cherished by the Pantorans, but grew to become even more meaningful to the noble families after the transition from feudal lords to a democratic society. The details on how Pantora was unified is still unclear, but the result was a Pantoran assembly that ruled the entire planet. It can be presumed that many of these early elected leaders came from the same family as those feudal lords, but over time it would become one of the most egalitarian societies in the galaxy. And again, that especially stands out in the wild and dangerous regions of the Outer Rim. There were 2 leaders and sort of branches of government, a speaker who led the assembly of all the other local elected officials, and the chairman who had executive power, something like having a president and a senate or a house of representatives, where they would debate the nuance of law, what would be their sort of equivalent to the court. It's not really clear, but it seems to be debated between the speaker and elected representatives and the chairman. Interestingly, despite their democratic turn, those old traditions of strong leadership are evident in Chai Cho, who was the chairman of the Pantoran Assembly during the Clone Wars. He points out to Senator Ryo Chuchi that the reason Pantora has remained strong and independent throughout the years is by remaining ever vigilant against their enemies.
I have led our people since before you were born. I've seen 100 planets rise and fall through force of arms. If it's not the Separatists out there, then it's a malevolent and aggressive enemy nonetheless, and I will not let whoever it is jeopardize the security of the people of Pantora.
He also mentions that he has been leading his people since before she was born, so presumably for decades, which might give us a hint that there are no term limits on the chairman role. We know that since the 50s BBY, Plagueis and Palpatine had been pushing the galaxy towards war, and the Outer Rim especially became more dangerous. And so if he could keep Pantora safe during these decades, you could see why they might not want to get rid of him. And he even calls himself the Supreme Chairman and Exalted Ruler.
And as the Supreme Chairman and Exalted Ruler of Pantora, you will not command me to leave this planet or do anything else.
So perhaps he's just a small-scale blue Palpatine, using emergency powers to try and rule as dictator. We also see that he was willing to massacre the Tal species in retribution for attacking a Republic outpost, the result of which he saw as weakening his defenses against the CIS. He goes so far as to attempt to label them as animals to carry this out.
They are savages. Look at what they've done. They've slaughtered your troops. They belong to us. This whole system belongs to us.
And hints at an idea that is likely shared by many Pantorans, that their solar system was a birthright awarded them by being the only sentient species in the system. But as we mentioned earlier, that sentient status is a technical term, and is granted if you could find evidence of things like tool use and language, both of which the Jedi witnessed, and thus they could be covered by the Convention of Civilized Systems. As for why the Republic intervenes on Ordo Plutonia, it is because the Pantoran system is one of the few in the Outer Rim that doesn't want to join the CIS. Once the supposed savages and the Pantorans engage in battle, the Supreme Chairman is wounded. Though interestingly, when he's trying to be nice to the Senator, he drops the Supreme part of his title. But it doesn't work, and she tells him that the Pantoran Assembly has ruled him out of order.
Final command, as Chairman of Pantora, I order you to destroy the Tals.
The Pantoran Assembly has called you out of order. I am to negotiate peace.
Which shows whatever the extent of his extra powers and/or longer term, the ruling body was still functional and able to check him. With the peace forged via the Senator and the help of the Jedi, the Pantorans would recognize the Tals as their new sovereign neighbors. Many likely hoped that their effectiveness at killing droids, and even clones, would actually amplify their own fierce independence, and perhaps help to keep the system free from the machinations of the outside galaxy. Papa Noida would be elected the new chairman, but was quickly met with a Trade Federation blockade, which was explained as being simply a matter of debt, not something meant to influence the war.
The Trade Federation is neutral in this, but Pantora must pay its debt.
Conveniently, Dooku said the CIS would provide aid to the Pantoran people. And in order to further push Papa Noida, the Separatists hired bounty hunters, including Greedo, to kidnap the chairman's two daughters. Once this plot was revealed, the Pantorans were rescued, and the Trade Federation claimed that they had no idea of this plan, and in goodwill they would lift the blockade. Everyone knew the truth, that this was simply too obvious of a play. This world would remain out of the major battles of the Clone Wars, and even into the Imperial era there are no accounts of the Empire causing harm on Pantora. Perhaps this marshy world was of no value to, or a thorn in the side of Emperor Palpatine. So that's it for the Pantoran biology and history, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind the scenes stuff. Most of the face markings were simply like makeup, but some would actually be tattoos, and instead of symbols it would be text from ancient Pantoran works. Some, like Lassa Rame, a Pantoran pirate, had no face markings as they did not wish to represent their family ties, while others would use this tradition to show their allegiance to a new family, a crime family, like we see with this Pantoran member of the Black Sun crime syndicate. In the novel Dark Disciple, we get some details about their architecture, being tall buildings topped with large gardens. In the new canon Thrawn trilogy, Thrawn is often confused as a Pantoran while he's on Coruscant. Also, George Lucas and his daughter appeared in Episode 3 as Pantorans, though at the time they were just being called Twi'leks. So that's it for the Pantoran species. If you want to connect with us on social media, find ways that you can help support this channel without it costing you a thing, or check out our Patreon, be sure to check out the links in the description. Special shout out to our supporters over on Patreon, but most important of all, remember, if you get kidnapped, you gotta smash them in the head with religious statues to really get that blessing out of the gods. And the Force will be with you, always.